In this tutorial we're going to look at how you can make your animations interactive. We can do this by loading in a piece of mocap or keyframe data and then using the motion transfer event to start to modify it. In this example we're going to load in a standard walk and then change that to be a walk holding a gun. We're going to adjust the weights of the gun and the strength of the arms to represent the character getting tired over time. So to get started, the first thing we want to do is to delete the default character. So we select him on the timeline here and just hit delete. And now we have an empty scene to work with. So we go to add character, and now here I want to browse to the tutorial 13 directory. Click OK, and then here I want to load in the audio motion 2 character and then click on include reference character as well. So now that's brought in both of the characters, the simulation character and the reference character. So as you can see, they're sitting on top of one another to start with. First thing I want to do is I just want to move the simulation character to the side so they're not going to collide. I can do that by simply moving him 2 meters over to the left there. Next thing we need to do is load in some motion onto our reference character. So I select the reference character, go to import, and I'm going to load walk from the tutorial 13 directory. Select the hips, leave everything else as default, and click OK. So that's the motion loaded in. So if I simulate now, you'll see that our reference character performs the animation, but our simulation character just falls over. We're not telling him what to do yet, so let's go ahead and control him now. So the first thing I want to do is create a motion transfer event. This allows us to transfer the motion from the reference character onto our simulation character. So here I want to set the start frame to be 1 and then the end to be 360, so it encompasses the whole animation there. And then here I need to set the source character, and I can do that by hitting select, and then either in the viewport or on the timeline I can just click, and then that's going to populate this field here, and then right click to accept those changes. So now if I simulate, we have both of those characters performing the animation. With the motion transfer event, it just applies the motion to these pink body parts here, and as you can see some of them are undefined, so I want to control those a little bit more than them just being free, and I'm going to do that by using an active pose. So I make sure that I'm at frame 0, and then I go click and create active pose, set that 0, and then again just stretch it out 360. And now when I simulate, you can see that just the feet and the fingers are more controlled and they're not just flapping around. The next thing we need to do is set up the opening pose for the simulation character, because at the moment the character is still in the T pose at the beginning of the simulation and then goes into the animation. So we need him to be in the opening pose of the animation at the very beginning of the simulation so that we can put the gun into his hands in the correct place. And we can do this by saving a pose. So to get the pose, I go to where the character is first being affected by the animation, which is frame 2, and then I select the character, I go character, save pose, and I'm just going to call this start, save that pose out, and then go to frame 0 and then go character, load pose, and then load that pose in. Leave all the defaults and click OK. Now I know that at the beginning of this simulation he's going to start in this pose. So now we want to bring in the gun for him to hold. So let's go to add character and bring that gun in. So that's here as a prop. You go large gun, click OK, and there it comes in at the origin. Now I can select it, and I just want to position this in front of the character ready for him to hold. So I'm just going to move this into place. And that looks about okay. Now the next thing we want to do is pose this character so that his arms and hands are actually going to be holding onto the gun. So to pose him, I'm going to go into pose mode by clicking the pose move, and now make sure that I'm at frame 0. Now I'm going to lock the shoulder by right clicking, select the hand and the fingers, and now I can just rotate the hand to bring it up next to the gun. And then to get the fingers, I can just lock the hand and then rotate the fingers round. And then do the same for the other arm. Lock the shoulder, select the hand and the fingers, and rotate it round, and then bring it up to the gun. So once we've got the pose of the arms in place, we next need to create an active pose so that the character is going to try and hold that pose throughout the animation. So we do that by right clicking on the timeline and go create active pose, and that's going to set that pose into the active pose automatically as the pose that he's going to hold. Again, stretch that out for the length of the other events, and we want to set the strength of that to be 3 to give him enough strength in the arms. So now what we need to do is modify the motion transfer event, so that's going to release control of the arms so that we can then have the active pose take control of those. So I'm going to hit hotkey C to bring up the character rig setup dialog. Then in our audio motion 2 character, I want to create a new rig group. Click on add. I'm going to call that arms free. And then going down here, we want to modify some of the settings for these rig nodes. So for the lower spine, I want to set this to be 100. And then with these numbers, I can just Control C, Control V to copy and paste those. So I want to do that for each of these here, where I'm going through and setting those all to 100. So I've done that for the lower spine, upper spine, and for the head. And then the shoulder, again at 100. And now the upper arm, I want to set that to be no hold. So the rig is going to have no control over the arm at all. Right hand, turn that off. Shoulders again 100, the arm to no hold, and the hand to no hold. Then click OK to confirm that. Then to use that rig group, we select the motion transfer event, and then down here in the rig group section, we click and choose arms free there. So with the active poses, you can see that we've got 2 on the timeline. One is in the T pose and the other one is in this pose with the arms holding the gun. The T pose we want to have controlling the feet to keep them flat. So I'm going to select that one, and then using selection sets, just drag a box over the lower part of the character, and then for the other one, drag that over the top half, and then that will affect just his upper body and arms. And then once we're happy with the selection, right click to go out of selecting mode. Then finally what we need to do is create a constraint so that we can attach the hands to the gun, and we put that into the environment timeline. So we go create constraint, and again stretch that out for the full period of time of the animation. And then we zoom in here. I want to use join bodies constraint. Click on selecting, and then I select using control left click to select all 3 of those objects, so both the hands and the gun. Make sure that you only have 3 here and you're not constraining anything else with that constraint. Then right click to go out of selecting. And now we can simulate, and the character will be holding the gun while performing the walk animation. And now once we have all that set up, we can now go into the actual mass object of the gun and start to change the weight of it and see how that affects the character's motion. So with the gun, we can right click and go edit character in scene, and as you can see the timeline goes red here, and we jump back to the beginning of the simulation. Now to select the mass object, it's actually hidden for this gun. So I bring up the node view, hotkey N, and then just go down the tree of the gun to the mass object, and now here I can set the density to 5, and now if I simulate again, you can see how that is now affecting the character. It's even pulling down his chest, and it's much lower down, but we're still getting nice fluid motion of the gun moving, and all of that is coming along for free. So once you're happy with the animation, you can export that out, and indeed export the animation of the gun as well. So try experimenting with different weights of the gun, different strengths for the active poses, and also for the individual rig nodes of the motion transfer event.